Hello, welcome to Anita the Pedagogue channel. Today we continue with our literature lessons. We want to discuss the poem From Long Distance by Tony Harrison. We will look at the biography of the poet, the title, the structure of the poem, its line-by-line analysis, the literary devices, the themes, and I'll share with you some likely examination questions. Let's begin with the biography of Tony Harrison. He was born on April 30, 1937 in Leeds, England. He is an acclaimed poet, translator, and playwright known for his mastery of verse and his socially charged works. Educated in classics at Leeds Grammar School and Leeds University, he has had numerous works performed at the Royal National Theatre. Harrison gained attention for his controversial poem V and for his adaptations of classic works. He is also recognized for his anti-war views, particularly on the Iraq War. In recognition for his significant contributions to literature, Harrison received the David Cohen Prize in 2015 and the Premio Feronia in 2016. His poem From Long Distance, written in 1981, reflects on personal themes, specifically his relationship with his late parents and the complexities of understanding family bonds. Now let's move on and look at the structure of the poem. I'll recite the poem From Long Distance. Though my mother was already 2 years dead, Dad kept her slippers warmed by the gas, put hot water bottles her side of the bed, and still went to renew her transport pass. You couldn't just drop in, you had to phone. He would put you off an hour to give him time to clear away her things and look alone, as though his still raw love was such a crime. He couldn't raise my blinds of disbelief, though sure that very soon he would hear her key scrape in the rusted lock and end his grief. He knew she had just popped out to get the tea. I believe life ends with death, and that is all. You haven't both gone shopping. Just the same, in my new black leather phone book, there's your name and the disconnected number I still call. This poem is a 16-line poem with 4 quatrains or 4 stanzas. It has a regular pattern and a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, H, A, G. Or you can also see an A, B, A, B, and A, B, B, A rhyme scheme. This poem can be described as an elegy. An elegy is a type of poem that expresses grief, sadness, or loss. And this poem is an example of an elegy because of the themes of grief and death that it projects. The poem starts with a third-person narrative point of view and ends with a first-person narrative point of view. The pronouns you, I, he, she used by the poet is to create an intensely personal tone to the poem and emotionally connect the reader. This poem is also rich in literary devices such as enjambment, as some of the lines run on, with symbolism, rich in imagery, and full of end rhymes. Let's move on to the title. From Long Distance, also Long Distance too. As the title suggests, the recount of memories from a past time, or long distance. The poem through the title gives insight to the impact of a separation caused by death. Such impact can take a long time or never for one to heal. It also echoes the vastness of separation from the departed and loved ones alive. The summary and analysis, the stanza by stanza analysis of the poem From Long Distance by Tony Harrison. We begin with the first quatrain. The poem opens with a blunt declaration, though my mother was already 2 years dead. This line sets a gloomy tone immediately, confronting the reader with the heaviness of loss. The speaker describes how his father continues to perform various intimate acts of care, such as warming his mother's slippers and placing hot water bottles by his side of the bed and renewing her transport pass. These actions illustrate the father's struggle to cope with his wife's absence, emphasizing the theme of enduring love. The domestic imagery evokes a sense of normalcy disrupted by death, revealing how the father clings to fragments of their shared life. In the second stanza, the poem shifts to the speaker's perspective on communication. The line "you couldn't just drop in, you had to phone" highlights the barriers erected by the grief. The father's need to clear away his wife's belongings before a visit suggests a desire to hide his vulnerability and his grief. Harrison shows sympathy at his grieving father in how he ironically explains his actions in line 8, as though his still raw love was such a crime. This line conveys the stigma surrounding open displays of grief and the societal pressures that often accompany mourning. Harrison's use of irony here emphasizes the isolation that grief can create, as the father feels compelled to maintain a facade of normalcy. The third stanza reveals the father's desperate hope for reconnection. Phrases like "risk my blight of disbelief" and "sure that very soon he would hear her key" depict an emotional yearning for his wife's return. The imagery of the rusted look symbolizes the passage of time and the decay of their shared life. Despite the reality of death, the father's hopeful delusion suggests a refusal to fully accept his loss. The line "he knew she had just popped out to get the tea" reflects a comforting denial, illustrating how love can manifest in the form of hope, even in the face of irrevocable loss. This creates an immense mood of grief even for readers, while highlighting the denial grief can lead to. In the concluding stanza, the speaker confronts his own beliefs about life and death. The proclamation, "I believe life ends with death, and that is all," plainly contrasts with the father's hopeful illusions. This line serves as a key highlight of the poem, showcasing the generational divide in their understanding of grief. It also demonstrates that people view death differently, or grief. The mention of "my new black leather phone book" symbolizes the speaker's attempt to move on, yet the presence of the disconnected number reveals his struggle to let go, just like his father. This juxtaposition captures the difficulty of grief and letting go. Language and style. There's the use of symbolism. Rusted lock, as we see in line 11, and this symbolizes the passage of time and the decay of the shared life of the father and the mother. There's also the use of rhymes. There is a rhyme scheme, which is ABAB, with the last stanza having an ABBA scheme, and this indicates some controlled or restricted emotions, as the rhyme scheme doesn't stay consistent till the end. It means that with grief, things are not consistent. Also, there's the use of enjambment. Some of the lines run on. We see an example which is from line 6 to 8. From line 6, the idea ran on, and so you need to read it together before you finally come to a pause. He would put you off an hour to give him time to clear away his things and look alone, as though his still raw love was such a crime. Also, we see in line 16 to 17, "I believe life ends with death, and that is all. You haven't both gone shopping just the same." There's also the use of metaphor, blight of belief. We see that in line 9, and also the use of irony. "There is your name and the disconnected number I still call." So to call a disconnected number, knowing very well that it wouldn't go through, is ironic. There's also the use of imagery, slippers, and then transport paths. They create visual imagery. New black leather phone book creates some visual imagery as well as some feel imagery. That is the texture of leather. Let's move on to the themes of From Long Distance by Tony Harrison. Our first theme, the lasting nature of love. One of the central themes of the poem is the enduring nature of love, particularly in the face of death. Harrison illustrates this through the father's actions, such as warming his deceased wife's slippers and placing hot water bottles by his side of the bed. These acts are infused with deep personal significance, revealing the father's refusal to let go of his wife completely. The phrase "still raw love" stresses the intensity of the father's feelings, suggesting that love does not diminish with death. Instead, it transforms into an emotional longing. Harrison also uses the speaker's desire and hope for keeping the disconnected number to show how one's love for the deceased can keep you in an illusion of hope. Harrison demonstrated lasting love in the presence of loss. This juxtaposition emphasizes the idea that love persists as a comforting presence even when the loved one is physically absent. The emotional weight of the father's love serves as a testament to the bonds that endure beyond death. Let's move on now to the theme grief. Grief is another key theme that permeates the poem. Presented as a complex experience, the speaker's father embodies this complexity as he grapples with his emotions while attempting to maintain a normal appearance. The line "you couldn't just drop in, you had to phone" highlights the isolation that often accompanies mourning. The father's need to prepare himself before a visit reflects the societal stigma surrounding open expressions of grief, suggesting that vulnerability is viewed as a weakness. Harrison employs irony to deepen the theme of grief. The father's hope that his wife will return, exemplified in the line "he knew she had just popped out to get the tea," illustrates a denial that is both comforting and sad. This hope stands in blunt contrast to the speaker's belief that life ends with death, showcasing the two opposing attitudes of the speaker and his father in coping with grief. The complexities of grief are portrayed as a universal experience, but everyone navigates their path in a different way. Let's look at the theme, the role of memory. Memory plays a crucial role in the poem, serving as a bridge between the past and the present. Throughout From Long Distance, the speaker reflects on memories of his parents, illustrating how these recollections shape his understanding of loss. The mention of the disconnected number in the speaker's phone book symbolizes the persistence of memory even in the absence of physical presence. This imagery sums up the struggle between moving on and holding on to the past, highlighting the difficulty of reconciling memories with reality. Harrison's use of imagery reinforces the theme of memory's power. The vivid descriptions of the father's routine create a sensory experience that immerses readers in the emotional landscape of grief. The phrase "I believe life ends with death and that is all" stands in contrast to the father's hopeful memories, revealing the tension between acceptance and longing. This reinforces the idea that memories can both comfort and haunt, serving as a reminder of what has been lost while simultaneously keeping the deceased alive in the hearts of those left behind. Let's now move on to some likely examination questions. Discuss how the speaker's relationship with his father is portrayed throughout the poem. Identify and analyze the theme of memory in From Long Distance. How does Harrison use imagery and language to convey the significance of memories in the grieving process? How does Harrison employ irony to enhance the emotional depth of the father's actions and beliefs regarding his deceased wife? Analyze the use of imagery in the poem. In what ways does From Long Distance challenge or reinforce your understanding of grief and loss? Now this brings us to the end of our discussion of From Long Distance by Tony Harrison. Don't forget to hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe. Until I come your way again, keep learning and be the best version of yourself.